Alright, so today's a pretty exciting day. I'm going to mount this waterproof box here, and it's got my downstream injector remote control right here. This is the receiver, and mount that. I'm going to put a cable clamp here, come out of there, go to here to fire up, heat up my actuator, and then run another line up through it to heat up this box for my battery. So stay tuned. Get it even. Alright, so I've got my box mounted now, and I'm going to put this cable gland on right here, and I'm going to bring up two wires, one going to my actuator and one coming from my battery, right dead center, right there. I'll just, no need of putting two of these on when one will work. I'm not really concerned about me screwing this down where it's watertight. In fact, I'd like it a little bit loose since it's pointing down, just in case any moisture does build up in here or this doesn't get completely shut and I get water in here, then it'll act as a weep hole. And speaking of weep holes, I've got my battery case in. I put drain holes in each corner, so it's always a good idea to put a drain hole in something that you don't want moisture to build up in, because you never know. Water seems to find its way into everything. So I'm going to have two wires coming up through here. So I was just going through this cheap assortment. I got this cheap assortment on Amazon. I'll leave a link down below, but I mean it's not super high quality, but you don't have to have that on here. So I just want it big enough that two wires go through. And these are 18 gauge 2 conductor wires, and they're stranded, pre-tinned also. Okay, got ahead of myself. Alright, so again, this is a step drill bit. This is what you want to use on plastic, polycarbonate, any soft materials. I'm just going to eye where the center is and get that going. So once it breaks through, it goes pretty fast. I want to get my here it is right here. Get this ready to go in. So I'm going to keep testing it as the hole gets bigger. Okay, a little more. A little more. One more step. Perfect. Put my box back. I want to show you how these cable glands work. So you put your wire up through here like this, and this nut comes down and evenly squeezes this gasket over the wire. Now you can get one too big and it won't squeeze down, but if you look try to get it where you can see it, but as I turn it, you can see it squeezing down. You see that? So you want to size it per your wire. But like I said, I want mine a little bit loose as a weep hole, so if it gets any water in here, I mean, thinking about it now, you'd have to get a 1/4 inch of water before it'd go in there, but so it's not that big of a deal. If I have an issue with weeping, then I can put a tiny little hole like back here in this back corner just to get rid of any water. So anyway, that's how they work. All right, so I stripped them back and I'm going to put a twist on them. Now this wire is already pre-tinned, which means it's going to take solder really well because it's already got a microscopic layer of essentially solder or lead or something similar. And when you pre-tin something, I mean, that's a proper way of doing a solder joint, pre-tinning. Then it takes solder quicker and deeper. But I also have one going from here down to the battery. So my battery's right here. So this is just going to be another guesstimate. Give myself a foot there, down here, coming into the battery, 1, 2, 3 feet. I mean, if you knew exactly the way you're going to run it, you wouldn't have to waste that kind of wire. But I'm not sure. I'm going to redo all this valving right here. This is a cluster of a attempt to make a basically a manifold for my 2 downstream injector ports. But I've got parts coming hopefully today where I can clean this up and it'll actually look like a manifold. I'm making this is a stranded wire. If you put it underneath these wire clamps, they're going to come loose. So you want to turn these into solid wires. And the easiest way of doing that is to solder the ends. Then that way, once you clamp it down, it's not going to pull out. Get a little solder on my iron, and that'll let it flow. Okay, that one's pre-tinned and soldered up. There you go. Now I made 2 solid wires out of it. Should have had my other one ready to go. So dab a little solder onto your iron. That's going to transfer the heat a lot quicker and better. Throw a little solder on there, just like that. There we go. So now I'm going to trim these for length so it looks a little better. You don't want a bunch of, you don't want a bunch of this exposed wire out of the joint. So let's see. This is the longest one, so this goes over here. This one goes to the motor. It says it right inside there. Motor, and then here's the voltage in. I'm going to go ahead and bring up this one through the bottom. And up and through here. Alright. Now, all this is doing is reversing the polarity, so it makes a motor or a linear actuator or other 12-volt devices run forward and backward. Alright, let's get these under that clamp. This one's get loosened a little bit. There we go. That one's having a little, oh, there we go. Right there. Make sure it's that wire's under that clamp good. This one looks real good too. I don't want to over tighten these little screws. Okay, so you see, if you just clamp the stranded wires underneath those clamps, it'll work loose, and most generally if you pull hard enough they'll just come off. So this side goes to the battery. Alright guys, so there's something I didn't do here that I normally do, and I just wasn't thinking, but I'm going to give myself a little bit of room right here, like this. I don't want to give myself a lot of room as far as the wire goes. And then I'm going to mark right here, like so. And I should have done this prior, but what we're going to do is make a way that the wire won't pull through. Like if you snag on the wire, it won't pull it out of here. So we're gonna put a knot right here in the wire. So find our mark. I'm not seeing the mark. I'm gonna put the knot in this side because I can see the mark easier on this side. Okay, there's the mark right there. I'll put this knot on it. Bring this one down a little bit. Make it the same. Alright, so we have two restraining knots right there. So now we'll bring our wire down through. I didn't think about that when I first put it together. So there's this one. So now if you pull on this, it's going to keep it from pulling out of your well, whatever you've got hooked up. I mean, from a vacuum sweeper to a you know, food processor or whatever, there'll be a way inside a lot of those where they're clamping the wire so this doesn't happen. And or you'll see in appliances where they've actually just put a knot in. So there you go. So if you're running this around and somehow, you know, you throw something on the truck and it hits like this, you see, it's not going to jerk it out of here. So it's just a good idea to do that if possible. And I got to see which one goes to my battery. Okay, well, I forgot I had a beacon up there. That's going to come on when I call for a chemical. So I need to extend these wires down and come up through here. Let's see if I can get 3 wires in there. Wasn't thinking, guys, wasn't thinking. Alright, so I had to take this apart a little bit, and I am getting the 3rd wire up in there. So this is going to go to my beacon up here. So I'm going to give myself plenty of room, which I should have done earlier. This is the way you should have done it, instead of put these knots in after the fact. And I'm going to go ahead and put a knot in this one too, like so. pull it down, slide all this up, and we're good to go. Okay, just like before, we're going to make solid wires out of these. Alright, so the only thing I know for sure right now is that the ground needs to go on the ground side of the battery. Now the positive side that makes this light come on, I don't know which side of this relay it's going to be on, so we'll just, figure that out later. So right now I need to get this on the negative side right here, the black on the negative side of the battery. And this will be getting some shrink tubing. So I'll show you a little trick that I do on here. Maybe some of you won't agree with it, but it's the way I like doing it. So I'm going to cut myself one piece of shrink tubing to go over just one connector. Then I'm going to cut a piece to go over both connectors, like so. So there was a guy that was watching my videos, and I'm going to try this, and he said and I've just never tried it. He said just basically flatten out these strands and intertwine them, and it'll take up a lot less room. So I'm going to see if that works. First I'm going to put my shrink tubing on one side and get that up out of the way. Then I got this shrink tubing to go over the whole business. Get that out of the way. So let's see if we can intertwine the wire and make a little nicer joint. It doesn't look too bad. He called it, when I put 3 wires together up here on this pump, he called it a crow's foot joint. But if I get solder in there, I'm still at 750. If I get solder on that, this will be cool. Just never done it this way. I better get my iron nice. All right, so there's that joint. Yeah, that looks quite nice actually. All right, I'll take that. All right, let's do the same here. So he said to flatten them out, so I'm going to flatten those out. I'd already twisted these, but I'm going to flatten them back out. Intertwine them kinda. Squeeze them down. Now that one, get up there. My shrink tubing's wanting to come down, so maybe a little twist on this one because they're wanting to unfray a little bit. Okay, I'll take that. Alright, get on there. There we go. Got a little too much solder on it, but it's going to work just fine. I don't like getting my joint that full. So now I'll bring the, well, for now we're going to let that cool off. Alright, it's cooled off now. Bring down this one piece of shrink tubing over that joint. And I updated my nozzle. Check that out. I'm going to set it to 500 degrees. Well, no, I'm going to have it on low, the low fan, and set it at 600 degrees. See what happens here. That is so nice. No burning or anything. I've got to find a nozzle kit for this. All right, so now what I don't do is put a shrink tubing on this side. I just bring the one up over everything, because you're going to do that anyway. Now, some of you guys may not like that, so just leave a comment, leave a nice, idiot comment down there telling me how crazy I am, but it's just the way I've always done it. Okay, so again, this is double wall shrink tubing, and you can see the adhesive melting right there, coming out of there. I'm going to hit water. All right. So now I can see that it's backwards because I'm calling for water, which is going to be the A button, and it's turned this valve off, which forces the water to go down here, pick up this downstream injector, and then go out. So I need to reverse these leads right here. Okay, so you can see it's already going to the open position for water. Now when I call for bleach right here, or chem, I hit this button, and there we go. So now I can see I need to tighten this up a little bit, but that's another thing. But for now, at least I know what color wire needs to be soldered here, so I can get that taken care of, and I don't have to get back into this box. Yeah, it takes 3 times as long to solder something together, but I come from auto repair, and in the end, on any of your vehicles, electronics, anything like that, you do not want a crimp connector. Wires are soldered for a reason. You will not find not one crimp connector on an airplane, not one. If you do, then you need to get off of it. So there we go there. Look at that adhesive melting. Alright, let's give her a try. I have to take my glasses off so I can work up close. go. Want to make sure I didn't get something backwards. Alright, so the valve right now is in the off position. So that means it's calling for chem. So the water comes down here, it's got nowhere to go. So it goes down here. So I'm going to call for water, which is the top button. So this valve opens, the water goes down the path of least resistance and shoots straight out to my reel. And I think just from the configuration of this, that you may get a little bit of water through here. You know, when it shoots past this port, it makes like a little vacuum here, but nothing that would overcome the check balls in here to pull chem. So that's pretty good. There's a guy that watched this video on me building this, and he built his own almost identical, except he handmade this bracket out of some thick steel, and he did a wonderful job, and his valve is working great. He sent me a video of it working, and I mean, he does some really good work. I just did it cheap old-fashioned way. He did it right. I commend him on that. I forget his name. I don't even think he has a YouTube channel, but if he does, I'll put it down below. So once again, water. And he tested his under pressure and it worked just fine. So this actuator is plenty strong enough. I'm just curious about the distance I'm going to get here. So what I think I might do is walk to the back of my property, which is probably 300 feet, maybe 350 feet, and operate this and see if it works. Alright guys, so I'm back here at the corner. It's right at 200 feet. So I'm not very good at estimating distance, I guess. So anyway, I'm going to leave the antenna down and I'm going to call for bleach, which should turn that valve off. Now we'll walk back and see if the valves turn the other way. Perfect. That's with the antenna down. It's not all on here, but I've got 250 foot of hose. So I'm confident if I'm 250 foot away, I could even raise this up a little bit just to make sure. But I'm real happy with that. Okay, so I'm putting this on the negative side, where I should have put it on to begin with. You know guys, sometimes when you're making a video, you make mistakes because not only am I trying to do this, I'm trying to think in my head far enough ahead where I'm explaining it correctly, and sometimes I just lose track of what the crap I'm doing. So, alright, so now we're going to start this over again. I've called for bleach. Our valve is off for some bleach or chemical. Let me just say chem through that line, my downstreamer. So we're on the negative side here of the battery. So all I got to do is find the positive side here to make this light work. So that's got to be the negative side. And there we go. So then what happens is when I call for water, this terminal here will turn to negative and this one positive over here. So of course negative to negative on anything is not going to run. So let's hit for water. Lights off. So if I want to look around the corner and see that the light's off, I know I'm just shooting water. If I want to hit bleach, hit bleach, and my valve is turning off, and there we go. Okay, got that underneath that terminal. Tighten it up, go back, retighten everything. And tuck this in. We'll put the cover on. All right, if you watch the video on this hooking up this relay and stuff, I drilled a little hole through here to bring the antenna out of the box. The antenna originally was just wound up in here, and it just makes more sense to get that antenna out for a longer distance. Okay, so I think antenna is going to work fine hanging down just as well as sticking up. So there it is. That. Call for water. Valves opening up. All's good. Okay, something I didn't go over, and I know a lot of you are just screaming to make a comment, is I didn't put a fuse in here. All I had was this 30 amp 10 gauge inline fuse, and if I had a smaller one, I think I would buy like a 18 gauge wire and have like a 3 amp fuse, maybe a 5 amp fuse at the most, to run this light and this actuator. And I mounted it in here, and I still can, but I don't have one, or I could put it in the battery box. But I intend to. I just didn't order one, so I'll get a fuse on there. So you ought to put a fuse on too. So something I really did forget was putting this split wire protector or conduit on. I was going to put that on this wire here, and I just forgot about it, and I'm not going to take it apart right now. I'm just going to let it go. So I did remember I'm going to put it on here, and the one going to the battery, and I'll put a little piece on right here. But man, yeah, I forgot. It's going to work just fine. So I'm going to use this J-bolt stud to put my wire on, like so. All right, so I'm about to the end of what I can do. I'm waiting for a sizable order from US Plastics to hopefully finish the project. I've said that like 20 times, and then I have to make another sizable order. Okay, good enough for me. Use my dikes to cut any excess off. I don't even know if I can say that word anymore, but I'm using my dikes.